Welcome to this week's Monument Monday, and for this week we've visited Cashelore, which is a stone fort here in Ballintoher in County Sligo, and I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Seamus McCormack, and Seamus has great knowledge of the history and archaeology of this area, and Seamus is going to bring us on a tour of this amazing fort. Tell us, Seamus, a fort of this kind, would this be of a scale now that would make it a very high status kind of monument, or it is an enormous fort?
This would be probably one of the best preserved cashel in County Sligo, and maybe indeed in the whole northwest. These stone forts, as we call them, or cashel, they were the dwelling places and they were the homesteads of people from maybe 400 AD right up to 1000, 1200 AD. And in this particular instance here, we have a monumental structure with very significant limestone boulders here at the entrance. And again, we're on a very elevated site here. So the views from here in every direction are significant. And in the background there we have Cashelore, or mountain, Slishwood. Yeats called it Sleuthwood, where dips the rocky highland of Sleuthwood in the lake. And on the other side, we have Slieve Doyen and Slieve Dargan. And on the summits of those two hills, there are four passage tombs. But to come back to where we are here, this structure is about 23 or 24 metres across. It's oval in shape. And today it's probably only a tenth, maybe, of the height of which it was. Petrie in 1837 reckoned that the walls here would have been maybe 25 feet, which is about 8 metres high. Now, internally and externally, your walls are about 3 metres across in dimension, which means that the amount of stones that had to be collected here, boulders and so on, and the quality of the build, the stonemasons who worked here, were very skilled, because they've put the curved shape on the walls outside, but as well as that, their skill with the dry stone walls was excellent. The entrance is facing due east. Now, whether that had any link to the rising sun in the morning, we can only speculate. But the area around here has a lot of ring forts, and the ring forts and the cashel are two sides of the same coin. Wherever stones were available, they tended to put stone walls around the enclosure, and where there weren't, they used clay banks. What were they used for? Well, we can guess that inside would have been the houses of whatever family or families lived here. It was also a place where they brought in their animals at night, and it provided protection from wild animals. I'm not sure if they ever had any defensive dimension. Although when we go inside, we'll see that there's staging on the side of the walls where people could climb up and look out. So that might suggest some defensive purpose, but I'm just guessing on that.
And should we take a look inside the fort?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
If we go ahead.
We can see how thick the walls are here as we come through the entrance, and then we're into this oval space here, which the whole fort occupies the summit of this hill, doesn't it, Seamus?
It does indeed, yes.
Yeah.
And as I say, very strategic location. I mean, if we forget about the trees now and so on, this would have been visible from quite a distance in every direction as we look.
So a very impressive structure.
Very much so. Now, this would have been the dwelling place of somebody with significant prestige, significant wealth, to be able to afford the volume of work that has even just gone into the creation of the walls. here. And again, here in the centre, there are two more stone slabs. We usually would associate these with, you know, some kind of megalithic monument. Tradition has it that there's a souterrain, that's an underground passage under these stones. It has not been excavated, so it's just tradition.
Those are huge slabs, aren't they?
Huge slabs.
Yeah.
Now we come back to where we are. There's various names for here. We talk about Cashelore, ore being the Irish word for gold, the golden castle. But another name that we come across from the Annals of the Four Masters is Cashelon Uver. Uver being the Irish word for pride. And of course, whoever lived here, it would have been a place of pride. And indeed, there's another name that comes up as well, and it's called Bon Bui. Bon being an enclosure, and Bui being the Irish for yellow. Has that a link with gold? I don't know. There's a legend that there's gold buried here, guarded by an eel. And if somebody wanted to get that gold, they had to come here at night, bring two other people with them, dig, find the gold. The eel would kill two of those people, and the third person would have the gold. You can believe as much of that as you like. The legend also indicates that this eel goes from here, across the mountains to Lough Gill for a drink of water every 7 years.
Wow. Brilliant story. And Seamus, you were talking about this kind of staging or terracing, and we can see evidence of that over on this wall here.
Indeed. And, you know, there's a very renowned cashel in the north of Donegal called Greenon Alloch. And I have been there. And one of the things that I noticed in Greenon Alloch was this type of staging. Yeah. And it's not just at one level. It's at a number of levels as you go up in Greenon Alloch. Again, I can suggest maybe that the same was the case here. What was the purpose of the staging? Maybe to get up the wall, maybe to get up and get a view out.
Yeah.
But I'm just speculating.
Because there's a brilliant view from the top of the fort right across this whole surrounding area.
Absolutely. The whole vista in every direction, yes.
That's brilliant.
The staging that remains here is on the west side. And I noticed when you get to a certain distance, particularly there, the staging seems to stop. Again, I'm not sure here, maybe just the lower wall.
Yeah, I suppose when we're not dealing with the full fort, or, you know, it's not been reconstructed, it is as it is. And if you imagine that the walls here, as Petrie imagined, were much higher than this, so this must have really stood out in the landscape. And that's kind of a symbol of power too for whoever built it or occupied it.
We're fortunate here that the cashel has been taken in the charge of the state, and the Office of Public Works have access from the main road all the way through with a nice pathway, and it's very accessible. So for people who wanted to come and view here, there's no difficulty getting in.
That's brilliant. Will we take a little walk around the perimeter?
Indeed.
And we'll get a kind of an idea from the outside what the walls were like. So we're on the outside of the walls now, Seamus, and you were discussing how well built this fort is.
Well, I'm looking at the quality of the dry stonework. There's no mortar or anything there. And again, we're looking at very significant slabs of rock intermingled with smaller levelers, but the quality of the build and the level of skill that these masons had is very significant.
From down below the monument, we really get a sense of how big it is, and even it's kind of difficult to even capture that on video. The sense of how large this monument was, but early antiquarians would have agreed that it was an impressive structure.
Indeed, and Petrie visited here in 1837, and he wrote, "I have visited some remarkable Cyclopean forts. one called Cashelore in the parish of Cashelore. A finer example I have never seen. It is ascribed by tradition to the Firbolgs. I should suppose that the original height of the wall could not have been less than 25 feet. And then Stout in 1997 wrote a book about the ring forts of Ireland. And he states, in its simplest form, the ring fort may be described as a space most frequently circular, surrounded by a bank and fosse, or simply a rampart of stone. The bank is generally built up, piling inside the fosse the material obtained by digging the latter. Ring forts vary very considerably in size. Both High King and Small Farmer dwelt within the simple earthen or stone enclosures known collectively as ring forts or cashel.
Well, thank you for that, Seamus. That was a very interesting visit, and I hope other people take the opportunity to come and visit this. It's fully accessible, lovely path down to it, and maintained by the OPW as a national monument. Thank you very much, Seamus.